My dear friends, we've gathered together once again. Now settle into your favorite chair and get comfortable, because today I have something special to share with you all. As I prepared this content, I kept thinking about valued viewers like you. Your likes and comments inspired me to give it my very best. I know time is precious. That's why I want to make these minutes truly worthwhile for you. If today's video brings even a small smile to your face or brightens your day just a little, that would make me so happy. Now join me on this journey. But remember, your support is what keeps this channel going. Your likes, comments, and especially your subscriptions give me the strength to continue. Shall we begin? I'm certain this special content I've prepared for you today will bring some wonderful surprises. Buckingham Palace, 9:03 a.m. The morning fog over London was already lifting, replaced by a suspiciously sparkling sky, the kind of morning that made tourists think God had just Febrezed the entire city. Outside Buckingham Palace, the scene was familiar: rows of tourists clutching disposable cameras like it was 2003, children licking melting ice cream cones, and a street performer poorly juggling flaming pineapples. And of course, the royal guards, those red-coated, bearskin hat-wearing statues of British tradition, trained to stand motionless no matter what chaos unfolded before them. Rain. Fill. Screaming Americans. Fill. Drunk Australian tourists trying to make them laugh. Fill. But none of them had been trained for what was about to walk through those gates. A sleek black SUV crept to the curb. The doors opened slowly, dramatically, as if obeying a cinematic music cue no one else could hear. Out stepped Sparkles Taylor Swift Sparkles. Not pop star Taylor. Not red carpet Taylor. This was battle-ready Taylor, clad in a khaki trench coat, combat boots, and oversized sunglasses so big they could double as solar panels. Slung over her back like a musical sword was a pink glittery guitar, bedazzled with tiny rhinestone cats and a keychain that said, Karma. Tourists gasped in 13 different languages. No way, gasped a girl in a Midnight's hoodie, nearly collapsing onto her confused boyfriend. Is she here to sing to the king? Asked a man holding 3 children and 1 disappointed chuo. A conspiracy TikToker whispered ominously, she's here to reclaim the British throne. She is the true Queen of Hearts. Taylor didn't speak. She adjusted her sunglasses, cracked her knuckles, and walked toward the gate with the confidence of someone who just sold out SoFi Stadium 73 nights in a row. The crowd parted like the Red Sea for Moses. If Moses had cat eyeliner and a Billboard Hot 100 resume. She stopped 5 feet in front of the closest royal guard, a towering man with a face as serious as a tax audit. He didn't flinch. His gaze was set to eternally unbothered. Taylor smiled sweetly, then leaned in with the confidence of a woman who's ghosted a British prince before. Hi, she said. No response. You know who I am. Still nothing. She took off her sunglasses and narrowed her eyes. You're either a man of steel, or you're dead inside. Let's find out. With a swift, pun-intended movement, she pulled her guitar around front, positioned it perfectly, and strummed the opening chord to Shake It Off. The sound echoed like a holy hymn across the stone courtyard. Still, no reaction. So Taylor kicked it up a notch. She started singing. Loud. With attitude. Full-on Grammy-level vocals blasting out in front of one of the most sacred British landmarks, and a human statue who refused to acknowledge her existence. Then came the dancing. Taylor launched into full choreography. Hair flips, exaggerated hip swings, a spin so dramatic it sent a tourist's hat flying. She dropped it low, moonwalked sideways, even tried the classic look over your shoulder and smirk move. She was putting on a stadium show for one man who didn't even blink. The tourists were going feral. Phones were up. TikTokers were narrating. Someone live-streamed it on Twitch with the caption, Taylor Swift attempts to overthrow British government through interpretive dance. But still, the royal guard remained unfazed. Taylor paused. She was panting slightly, not from exertion, but from disbelief. You're really committed, huh? She asked. Silence. She pulled a friendship bracelet from her wrist and offered it. This one says, emotionally available. I made it just for you. The guard didn't even look at it. So Taylor leaned in slowly, speaking directly into his ear like a ghost at a sleepover. You cried during All Too Well, 10-minute version, and you know it. A flicker. The tiniest micro-expression crossed his lips. A lip twitch? A muscle contraction? Was it a suppressed smirk? The crowd screamed. A tourist dropped her gelato. Somewhere in the distance, Big Ben chimed like a judgmental teacher tapping his watch. Taylor gasped. I saw that. You smirked. The crowd exploded like it was Coachella. Just then, another royal guard appeared, clearly dispatched in case of celebrity emergency. This one was younger, flustered, and holding a clipboard as if that would help. Excuse me, Miss Swift, he said, his accent so posh it could butter toast. I'm afraid you're violating several centuries of palace protocol. Taylor turned slowly, raising a brow. Is there a rule against being iconic? Well, no, but... Then I plead fabulous. He sighed. Please stop weaponizing your lyrics against the monarchy. The tourists lost it again. A kid yelled, Taylor for Prime Minister, and was immediately hugged by strangers. Taylor took a deep breath, stepped back from the guard, and strummed one final chord. Tell the king, she said, dramatically placing her sunglasses back on, his emotional damage is now my property. She turned on her heel and began walking away, slow and cinematic like a scene from Kill Bill but with more glitter. The royal guard remained still, except, at the last possible second, he blinked. Once. A single blink that said, you win. And the tourists? They cheered like it was the Queen's Jubilee, a One Direction reunion, and a free Adele concert all rolled into one. Taylor climbed back into her SUV, rolled down the window, and yelled. Stream the Tortured Poets Department. Available everywhere. The SUV peeled off with a dramatic swerve. A pigeon flew overhead in perfect synchronicity. A rainbow appeared for no reason. The royal guard remained still. But somewhere deep in his soul, he was now a Swiftie. The SUV hadn't even cleared the roundabout when the palace erupted into Defcon Swift. Inside the Buckingham Security Command Center, a room normally reserved for tea-temperature emergencies and rogue seagull interventions, red lights were flashing. A siren shaped like a teacup spun on the ceiling. She touched the guard, one security officer whispered. With what? Her voice. No. Her vibe. Meanwhile, outside, the crowd was on the brink of combusting. A man with 3 fanny packs passed out from excitement. A toddler was live-streaming to 12,000 people while chewing on a Union Jack flag. A Scottish tourist screamed, I came for Big Ben but this is way better, while holding up a phone in each hand and one in his mouth. But Taylor Swift? She was still watching. Still waiting. Inside the SUV, she sipped a very suspiciously fancy iced latte, oat milk, 5 pumps lavender, rim dusted with edible gold. Driver, she said, pause at the monument. The driver obeyed instantly. The SUV stopped directly in front of the bronze statue of Queen Victoria. Taylor rolled down her window and stared at the statue. For a long, long moment. Then whispered, I forgive you. Why? Nobody knew. But somewhere, the air pressure shifted. Suddenly, chaos erupted again. From the palace's north garden gate came the most unexpected royal weapon of all, the Royal Corgi Brigade. They weren't just dogs. No, no, no. These were elite corgis, trained in psychological warfare and possibly ballroom dance. There were at least 12 of them, each wearing tiny tactical velvet vests with their own initials embroidered in gold. One corgi had a monocle. One was wearing AirPods. They advanced in perfect synchronized formation, their tiny paws making gentle pitter-patter sounds against the stones like war drums in a Pixar movie. Their target? The pink cardboard cutouts of Taylor Swift still fluttering in the breeze, left behind from the earlier decoy drop. The corgis halted. Their captain, a slightly overweight corgi named Sir Barkington, sniffed the folklore version. He barked once. It echoed like a prophecy. Suddenly, all 12 corgis turned toward the real Taylor's SUV. She's still here, whispered one guard from the watchtower. They can smell authenticity. Inside the palace, panic was taking hold. A butler dropped a tray of crumpets. A royal aide tripped over a corgi leash and crashed into the tea wall. The king's monocle fogged up. He shouted, "Activate the scepter." Every staff member in the palace froze. "Sir, are you sure? We swore never to use it again, after the Ed Sheeran incident." But the king was resolute. He slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne, which activated a hidden compartment in the wall. It rotated slowly to reveal the scepter of collaboration, an ancient microphone encrusted with jewels, said to be forged in the fires of Abbey Road and blessed by the ghost of Freddie Mercury. Its sole purpose? To unite two unstoppable musical forces in a peace duet. But first, they had to lure Taylor back. Meanwhile, outside, Taylor had gotten out of the SUV and was casually petting one of the corgis. Tourists screamed as if she'd just pet a baby unicorn. One man fainted onto a tour bus. Another got it on video, captioning it, "Taylor Swift ends monarchy through the power of friendship and 5-pound dogs." Taylor, with the poise of a woman who knows the price of every stadium in Europe, looked up at the crowd and said, "Does Buckingham have an open mic night?" The guards didn't know how to respond. They weren't trained for this. Suddenly, a palace door creaked open, and out walked musical keyboard Sir Elton John. Wearing a Union Jack robe, star-shaped glasses, and a suspiciously flawless manicure, Elton strolled across the courtyard like he owned the continent. He nodded at Taylor. She raised an eyebrow. The tourists lost their collective minds. Elton stopped directly in front of her and said, "Love, they're offering you the scepter." Taylor narrowed her eyes. "So it's a collaboration or a duel?" "Both," he replied. "One verse to rule them all." The ground shook slightly, not from seismic activity, but from pure British anticipation. Then it began. Elton John pulled out a travel-sized grand piano from nowhere, because logic no longer applied here, and began to play a dramatic, slow version of Love Story. Taylor stood in silence. Then raised the mic. Where did she get a mic? Who knows? And began harmonizing. The crowd lost it. Pigeons flew in formation. Big Ben played a D chord. Somewhere in the Thames, a fish jumped out of the water and did a little tail spin. But then, just as the collab reached its peak, the scepter short-circuited. Too much power. Too much harmony. The diamonds on its handle began to pulse violently. Taylor looked around. "It's unstable. It can't handle both our emotional ranges." Elton nodded grimly. "We have to finish this duet in space." The king, watching from a window, sipped tea and whispered, "God save us all." Earth orbit, altitude, 417 miles above Buckingham Palace. The HMS Majestic Bop hovered silently in low orbit, spinning like a disco ball on Xanax. Its chrome exterior shimmered with cosmic elegance, lit by the aurora borealis and the broken satellites Taylor's vocals had accidentally knocked offline. Inside the ship, a musical event unlike anything Earth, or any planet, had ever witnessed. At the heart of the vessel floated a glowing circular stage. Elton John drifted in slow circles, cape flapping like the wing of a majestic peacock in zero gravity. Across from him, Taylor Swift was standing upside down, using magnetic boots to grip the ceiling for dramatic effect. Her eyes glowed with starlight. Her lipstick, moonbeam red. Between them hovered the scepter of collaboration, now unstable, flickering, and occasionally sneezing out sparkles. It pulsed in rhythm to the heartbeat of the universe. Or maybe it was just syncing with the BPM of Cruel Summer. No one was sure anymore. Suddenly, the ship AI, named Lady Synthesia, chimed in. Warning. Harmonic resonance between artists has exceeded acceptable human limits. Please prepare for audience-wide euphoria and minor time dilation. Taylor smirked. Elton adjusted his sunglasses. Then, in a move that broke 6 separate laws of physics, they both sang the same note at the same time, in opposite keys. Reality hiccuped. Earth trembled. Buckingham Palace's windows blew open. A butler cried tears shaped like musical notes. In Tokyo, a vending machine dispensed a vinyl record unprompted. In the Pacific, a pod of dolphins began performing synchronized choreography to Enchanted. And in space, the majestic bop went full interdimensional. Dizzy interdimensional pop plane, the Swiftosphere. The interior of the ship bent and folded. Walls became waves. Elton's piano started speaking Italian. Taylor's outfit changed mid-sentence, from Midnights to Speak Now to a new, unreleased era suit labeled Quantum Edition, only available in fourth-dimensional retailers. They were now inside a hyperreality called the Swiftosphere, a pocket dimension generated by Taylor's discography and Elton's disco ball DNA. In here, metaphors became real, bridges lasted forever, and every ex-boyfriend was just a hologram wearing an apology sweater. Taylor turned slowly. "Welcome to my actual mind." She waved her hand, and entire eras of her career bloomed into floating planets. Reputation burned like a gothic sun, Red twinkled with heartbreak moons, and Lover played lo-fi beats in a pink nebula filled with cats. Elton gasped. "Good God, it's beautiful." "No," Taylor replied. "It's therapeutic." Flying saucer meanwhile, back on Earth. In the royal war bunker beneath Buckingham Palace, the king, now wearing a tactical cravat and sipping emotionally from a diamond-studded mug, stared at a blinking monitor. Sir Isaac Featherstone, royal science advisor, leaned in. "Your Majesty, the duet has reached fourth-dimensional stardom. If they perform a final chorus together, Earth may transform." "Into what?" "A giant vinyl record made entirely of feelings." The king nodded solemnly. "Then so be it. Let the world feel. For once." Suddenly, the bunker doors burst open. A voice yelled. "Absolutely not." It was Beyoncé, dressed in armor made of platinum Grammys, flanked by two synchronized dancers floating in air. Her entrance caused the security team to forget how to breathe. Even the corgis in the next room bowed. "You let Swift go full transcendental without inviting me," she said, furious but flawless. The king stammered. There was tea and explosions and—" "I'm going to space," Beyoncé declared. "This isn't even a duet anymore. It's a threat." Flying saucer back in orbit. As Taylor and Elton harmonized in a key only whales and angels could hear, a golden light ripped open space itself. Beyoncé's shuttle, the House of Renaissance, arrived. Powered by pure bass lines and Coachella dust, it parked next to the majestic bop with a cinematic hiss. A ramp extended into the Swiftosphere, and out she walked, striding across solidified vibrations, heels not touching the ground, wind machine following her through the vacuum of space. Elton gasped. Taylor whispered, "Finally, a worthy duet." Microphone. The trinity of pop is formed. Taylor, Beyoncé, and Elton stood in a triangle. Time stopped. GPS across the globe recalibrated itself to pop standard time, PST. Then, in a coordinated moment of destiny, they began the first-ever tridimensional harmony collab, a song so new it hadn't even been written yet. It just existed, naturally formed from stardust and pain. Musical notes, if you feel it loud. Musical notes, we don't need permission from the clouds. Musical notes, monarchies fall, but queens still rise. Musical notes, we wrote this bridge in the sky. Planets paused. A black hole smiled. Mars did a pirouette. A comet wept. On Earth, every bird stopped mid-flight and nodded in time to the rhythm. Old enemies hugged. Babies were born singing. A microwave in Berlin blinked, "I forgive you." Party popper back to Earth. The final descent. The three returned to Buckingham Palace like celestial beings. They landed on the lawn where tourists had now built an amphitheater out of selfie sticks. The royal guard, now crying freely and wearing 3 friendship bracelets, knelt before them. Taylor looked at him and said, "You held the line. You didn't break. You earned this." She handed him a handwritten lyric sheet. Elton blessed him with glitter. Beyoncé whispered, "Slay." And the king? He walked outside in his bathrobe and declared, "From this day forward, the monarchy is officially a fan account." At exactly 9:47 a.m. Earth time, the sound waves from Taylor, Beyoncé, and Elton's galactic collab finally reached the Kuiper Belt. But it wasn't empty out there. No. Something was listening. Inside a crystalline, saucer-shaped spacecraft orbiting Pluto, a species of high-intelligence beings known only as Swifterians awoke from their 500-year slumber. These creatures, shaped like glittering jellyfish wrapped in vinyl records, pulsed in rhythm as the chorus reached them. One of them, named Glorb-13, emitted a harmonic squeal. "She has returned," Glorb buzzed in telepathic Swiftish. "The blonde one of lore. She who writes in bridges." "Signal the Queen," another chimed. "It is time for the final remix." Guard back on Earth, Buckingham Palace now looks different. The palace grounds had transformed overnight into a full-blown music festival. What began as a diplomatic incident now resembled Coachella meets the Met Gala in space. Stages floated above the gardens. Fog machines puffed glitter. Prince William accidentally got stuck in a human-sized disco ball and no one had the heart to get him out. The Royal Guard now wore rhinestone-trimmed jackets with patches that read, "Swift Protection Division, EST." This morning, the Corgis had formed a choreographed drill team, performing to "Shake It Off" on the hour. One was caught attempting a TikTok thirst trap and was placed on probation. In the East Courtyard, Sir Elton John hosted a tea party/DJ set with Dua Lipa, Adele, and the ghost of David Bowie, who had shown up uninvited via astral projection and was now mixing trap beats with Baroque fugues. But it wasn't all glamorous. Because deep beneath the palace, in a forgotten crypt lined with VHS tapes of Queen's Jubilee specials, something was stirring. The ghost of Queen Elizabeth II, awakened by the bridge. A faint breeze rustled through the underground. The eerie notes of Enchanted echoed from the floor above. And then, a single skeletal hand burst through the marble. The ghost of Queen Elizabeth rose slowly, wearing a see-through version of her iconic green suit, pearls intact. Her eyes glowed a soft lavender. In her left hand, a crystal microphone. In her right, a flash drive labeled, "Remix or Die." She floated up through the stone like a royal specter with unfinished business. Alien above the Earth. The arrival of the alien Swifties. Meanwhile, back in orbit, Glorb-13 and the Swifterians arrived in Earth's atmosphere. Their spacecraft projected a holographic Taylor Swift across the sky, singing "Anti-Hero" in 4,000 languages, including Dolphin, binary code, and British sarcasm. Global reaction. The Pope declared it a spiritual event. Elon Musk tweeted, "She's here. I yield." A Jeff Bezos tried to buy the ship. Was politely declined. A BTS unretired in panic and dropped a new album within 37 seconds. The alien vessel landed gently on the royal helipad, crushing only one decorative hedge and 2 lawn gnomes. No injuries were reported, except to British pride. Microphone the royal mixtape ceremony. Back in the Grand Throne Room, Queen Ghost hovered mid-air while the King, Elton, Beyoncé, and Taylor stood in full ceremonial garb. Taylor wore a gown made from vinyl and moonlight. Beyoncé wore a cloak woven from Grammy acceptance speeches. Elton had on bedazzled armor made of piano keys. The Ghost Queen looked at the gathered crowd and declared, "This realm needs a new anthem." A royal aide fainted. The Prime Minister tried to object but got booed by a group of TikTok influencers dressed as different Taylor eras. Ghost Queen raised her hand. "Let the mixtape drop." From the floor rose a golden turntable. Floating above it, a cassette. It glowed with power, emotion, and just a hint of petty breakup energy. The final track? Musical note, All Too Well, 10 billion year version, featuring Beyoncé, Elton John, and Corgi Squad 7, musical note. Musical notes the world reacts. As the tape began to play, Earth paused. Every Starbucks renamed their menu to Taylor lyrics. Corgis were declared a protected diplomatic species. A Spotify crashed, then exploded, then came back and proposed to Taylor. Across the planet, something beautiful happened. Enemies hugged. Countries danced. A pigeon in New York City sang in autotune. A man in Wisconsin divorced his wife to marry the feeling he got during the bridge. Meanwhile, back in the throne room, Taylor looked out the palace windows. "It's done," she said. Ghost Queen floated beside her. "You have brought balance to the realm of vibes." Then, in the most British exit ever, Queen Ghost slowly lowered herself into a teacup, sipped spectral Earl Grey, and disappeared. Paw Prints post-credit scene. The royal baby drops heat. The crowd dispersed. History had been rewritten. Pop music was now a recognized religion. The monarchy had been converted into a verified fan page called @RoyalSwift UK. But just as everyone thought it was over, a tiny hand reached out from a nearby stroller. It was Prince Louis, the youngest royal. He pulled out a USB stick, handed it to Taylor. On it, a single file. "My first diss track, Prod. By Blue Ivy." Taylor gasped. Elton clutched his pearls. Beyoncé nodded. "The child is ready." The world was not. In the royal nursery, chaos reigned. Little Prince Louis, still in a diaper, had just dropped the most fire diss track the monarchy had ever seen, and it wasn't even nap time yet. The song, titled Crib Confessions, feat. Blue Ivy and Baby Yoda, had leaked to SoundCloud and caused immediate societal collapse in at least 3 countries. One lyric in particular sent shockwaves through every corner of TikTok. "Microphone, got the crown on my bib, got milk in my crib. While y'all argue on Twitter, I'm chartin' and mid-microphone." Royal staff tried to shut it down. Didn't work. Why? Because the beat had been co-produced by Grimes, Rick Rubin, and an AI modeled after Mozart, all during snack time. Mobile phone meanwhile, online. A Spotify rebranded as Swiftie. A new streaming platform, Royal Baby Records, launched overnight. A Prince Louis was signed to Rock Nation by Blue Ivy via FaceTime. A Kim Kardashian tried to start a rival nursery rap label called Sippy Cup Mafia. It flopped. In an emergency UN summit hosted via TikTok Live, 197 world leaders debated whether the royal baby should be knighted or stopped. Canada chose both. Paw Prints elsewhere. Time-traveling corgis have a mission. Out in the palace courtyard, the corgis had changed. No longer mere ceremonial snuggleloafs, they now wore tiny steampunk goggles and spoke only in Morse code barks. One corgi, Captain Sniffington, approached a shimmering portal behind the rose bushes. It was the Pawtal, a rift in time accidentally created when Taylor hit an E note during Enchanted. The corgis entered it 2 by 2, wagging in rhythm. Their mission? To retrieve the original 1605 royal mixtape, buried beneath the Globe Theatre and guarded by Ghost Shakespeare and 2 Elizabethan pigeons trained in slap combat. Their goal? To remix it with Taylor. Classical building inside the palace. A crown offered. Meanwhile, in the royal dining hall, which had been turned into a kombucha bar for this event, Taylor, Beyoncé, Elton John, and the royal family held a top-secret meeting. King Charles, now wearing a hoodie that read #TeamSwift, addressed the group. "It is clear," he began, "that the people no longer want a traditional monarch. They want a chart topper." Taylor blinked. "Are you saying—" Charles removed his crown, handed it to her. "We want you to be queen, not just of Britain, of vibes." A gasp echoed through the palace. The Archbishop of Canterbury spit out his oat milk latte. Prince William whispered, "As long as I can open for her on tour, I support this." Elton wept openly. The corgis returned from time travel just in time to bark in agreement, each holding a tiny scroll of royal lineage confirming Taylor was technically a descendant of and Bullen through an unverified great-great-aunt named Eunice Swiftwood. Crown the Coronation Concert. Live. Within hours, the palace had transformed into Eras Fest, Crown Edition. Tens of millions tuned in from every continent. The stage floated. The orchestra floated. The audience floated. Gravity had left the chat. Special guests included a Harry Styles, brought in via glitter cannon. A Dolly Parton, riding a winged unicorn. The resurrected ghost of Queen Victoria, playing bass. A Meghan Markle, DJing a grime remix of You Belong With Me. At the climax, Taylor stepped forward. A spotlight descended. She raised the royal crown above her head. But instead of placing it on her own head, she turned to Prince Louis. "Crown, this is for you, baby bars." She knelt before the toddler rapper. "I don't need a throne," she said. "I've already got the fandom." The crowd sobbed. Louis, still holding a sippy cup and wearing baby Air Jordans, nodded solemnly and said, "Bet." He placed the crown on his own head, backward. The Archbishop fainted. Fireworks post-coronation fallout. A Queen Beyoncé opened a solar-powered concert hall on the moon. Elton John was knighted again, just because. A Corgis were given full parliamentary voting rights. A Prince Louis's debut album, Pampers and Power, hit diamond status in 42 minutes. Meanwhile, Taylor rode off on a flying swan made of pure metaphor. She waved at the crowd and declared, "Never forget, the real monarchy is in your playlists." Mantelpiece clock final scene. The Corgis return. Again. But just before the credits rolled, the pawtowel flickered once more. Out came future Corgis. Metallic. Majestic. Wearing jetpacks and monocles. They barked in Morse code. "The timeline is broken. Adele just slapped the Pope. We need Taylor. One last time." Taylor turned slowly. Smirked. "Let's rewrite history."